One review. Book 101's about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a speaker, trainer, and consultant on the warrior, servant, leader mindset. And of course, an author too. And the author of the book, Warrior, Servant, Leader Life Behind the Badge. No other than Mr. Pat Welsh. Welcome, Mr. Pat, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more by yourself that I
Uh,
miss?
Daniel, thank you. Yeah, I'm born in Dublin, Ireland. When I was 3 days old, I was dropped off at an orphanage and lived there till I was 16 months old and came to the United States. And I guess if I had to pinpoint a beginning of my warrior servant leader mindset journey, it kind of began at a very, very young age. I was the only 5 year old that had to go to federal court and become a U.S. citizen. So I always knew I was kind of different than everybody else. And I ended up going to college and straight to law school and was a prosecutor for 4 years after I graduated from law school. And then in 1986, I made a radical career change and went into full time law enforcement, which is what I felt was my calling my entire life. And that's where I've been since 1986 is in that arena of law enforcement and training, speaking, and writing on leadership um, in that capacity. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yes, and Mr. Pat, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. And today, let's talk about your book. The title presents a powerful triad: warrior, servant, leader. Can you unpack what each of these identity means in the context of law enforcement? And how can officer must balance these often conflicting roles in a single moment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, warrior in my book is a person that stands up, shows up, and defends what they believe. A lot of people confuse the warrior mindset with it's a military type thing, or you're out there killing people, that kind of stuff. That's not what a warrior is. It's simply a person that stands up, shows up, and defends what they believe. And you can do that as a parent. You could do it in any career path. You can do it in your faith life if you have one. So uh, that's what a warrior is. A servant to me is someone that puts the wants and needs of others before their own. And in the law enforcement community, most people think of that as protect and serve. And it is, but it's also a lot deeper than that. And then that leadership characteristic and quality is a leader is simply someone who is a person of influence or impact in the life of another person. And you don't have to have bars, stars, and stripes. That's positional leadership. That doesn't make you a good leader. And so that's kind of what this book and another book I wrote with a similar title is all about. And it's what I teach and train on the national speaking circuit and on my own podcast.
Yes, and thank you for that again, Mr. Pat. How does an officer transition for the warrior mindset needed in a critical incident back to the servant mindset required for community policing? What is the psychological cause of that switch?
Well, the one thing that police officers have to be very careful about is always being in that authoritative mindset, which sometimes you have to in critical incidents. You have to take command of a situation, but more often than not, you're going to be called to solve people's problems. Nobody calls the police to tell the police officer what a great day they're having. They're going through something that they need your help with and solving. And so that transition from that warrior mindset of that enforcer mindset is to get into a more servant leader mindset, which means listening without being judgmental, and to speak without criticizing, complaining, or condemning the person that you're there to help. And so it's like all three have to be kind of um, uh, being utilized all at the same time, and you have to find that sweet spot of when to know when to take command and start giving orders, when to know to be a good listener so you can really identify how you can help that person, and then have the attitude, I'm going to do this in a positive, uh, impactful way, and treat them with respect and dignity.
Yes, indeed. Respect for sure. So, why is it this framework so essential for you to communicate? What is the common misconception about police work that this warrior servant leader idea corrects?
Um, I think most people, they picture the gun and the badge because that's what stands out. And when you are interacting with the police, it generally means things aren't going well. You get stopped for speeding, or there's been, a fight, or you're a business owner and somebody has shoplifted your products off the shelf, and you're having a bad day. And a lot of times, what police officers get blamed for is being rude when in fact they're not being rude. They're trying to be a good listener. They're trying to figure out exactly what the problem is and how they can help you solve it. And I think we need to do a better job in law enforcement of communicating with the community, with people, that we're not here simply to lock people up. We are here to be problem solvers, and we're part of the community. We live uh, and shop and go to church in the community, so we're part of your world. We just happen to dress differently because we have a uniform on. And so I would really encourage people, including officers, is don't have a big badge. I'm the police and you're not kind of mentality. And the community also needs to understand is we're, we're not your enemy. We are actually here to protect and serve you.
Protect and serve you, people, so don't be afraid. On the reality of a life behind the badge, Mr. Pat. Life behind the badge implies a world the public rely sees. What is the most significant unspoken truth about police culture and camaraderie that you wanted to reveal?
Out. The best way to share that, uh, an answer to that is to tell you just a real short story because the community never hears about all the good things. There's a 900,000 police officers in the United States, and we only hear the bad things on the news. We never hear the good things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an officer. I taught him in the police academy, and he gets a call on a theft, and it's a 9-year-old boy calls the police because someone stole his lawnmower, and he was actually, earning money. He was using the lawnmower to make money, and the officer comes and takes the report and then leaves. And unbeknownst to this little 9-year-old, the officer goes straight to I think it was Lowe's, is Home Depot or Lowe's, and out of his own pocket, he spends $400 and buys this 9 a new lawnmower and brings it back and gives it to him and leaves. So obviously, the little boy tells his mom, what happened and all that, and the mom calls the police chief to thank him. And this was a 500-man department. I mean, this was not a small department, and and the mom, profusely thanks the police chief for what this officer did. And the thing is, there are more officers like that all over the country than you know about, and they don't brag about it. And they shouldn't brag about it. But the community needs to know that 99% of the police officers protecting and serving you have that mindset of being that servant, being that leader, solving problems, and having compassion and empathy. And we need to get more of those stories out to people, to build trust between law enforcement and the people we're protecting and serving.
To build trust is something else, people. The book is likely covers moments of profound trauma. How do you prepare the readers of these stories, and what do you learn about resilience from facing them yourself?
Um, I don't go into a whole lot of true crime things in the book. It wasn't designed for that. It was more of a to take a human look at behind the badge, of what officers are really like. In the book, I talk about some of my experiences. One with the 12-year-old that had run away from home, uh, and then there are the trauma. I've been on hundreds and hundreds of homicide scenes, and they do affect police officers because we're seeing things that's not normal, that no human being should have to go through, and we kind of suppress those um, issues and our emotions, and we get detached from sometimes having a caring heart, having that empathy, having that compassion that you need. So I talk about it in the book, and then there's a really it wasn't funny when it happened, but I talk about the leadership lesson I learned when I accidentally shot a chair in my office, and uh, if you read it, it's my guys and gals that work for me had a great sense of humor, and that you'd have to read it. It's a funny story, other than the fact I couldn't hear for 3 days because my ears were ringing. But and then there's other things you have to have a sense of humor as a police officer, and I don't mean to be morbid sense of humor, that dark black humor, but you have to laugh about some things sometimes. And I have a chapter in there, you know, what not to name your child, because your kids are going to live up to um, uh, the names that you've picked for them. And I had a kid that I arrested and sent to prison, 19 years old, in his God-given birth name on his birth certificate was Al Capone Al Pacino.
Hmm.
And it's like, why would you name your kid after a notorious movie gangster and then expect them to not grow up to that reputation? And that's what happened with this kid. Um, so there's a lot more human. Most people, probably one of the worst movies that ever came out about law enforcement that gave us a really really bad reputation is RoboCop, and people really think we have that kind of mindset and behavior set that we're robots, and we're not.
Yes, definitely. On the personal journey and sacrifice, Mr. Pat, how does the constant exposure to human crisis and tragedy reshape an officer's view of humanities and their own place in the world?
That is a great question because that is one of the hardest things that a police officer has to do is to avoid compartmentalizing the tragedy and the trauma and the things that they see on the job, and then they have to go in and testify and repeat what they saw and heard, and we start building up these self defenses um, to not go crazy, and a lot of times those self defenses are not healthy. And I think that's what a lot of us in law enforcement have to deal with is, uh, you know, you can't start drinking, you can't start becoming closed-minded. Relationships will start to fall apart. Divorces, you get estranged from your children. All that happens because we have not been taught how to process in a healthy way uh, what we are thinking and feeling based on what we're doing for a living. And I think that's one of the hardest things. And suicide police officers, active duty officers, not retired cops, more officers commit suicide than are actually killed in the line of duty performing their job. And so it's getting better. The mental health and wellness of officers and talking about it and addressing it and offering resources is getting better, but that is one of the most difficult things we have to deal with.
And Mr. Path, as an author, uh, podcast host, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Uh, I want people to be influenced and impacted in a positive way, not just in relationship to law enforcement, because it's so much than that. All the principles I'm talking about apply to you in your personal life, no matter what career path you have. And so I guess that's for the writing and the podcasting. That's what I try to concentrate on is approaching things in a positive way, and how can you be the better person that you want to be at home, at work, in your community. And it's not just about cops.
Mhm. Good luck to your goals, Mr. Pat, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Uh, Real simple. Well, there's two pieces of advice. One came from a 15-year-old who's now actually a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. He died in 2006 at the age of 15. His name's Carlo Acutis, and uh, this insight by a 15-year-old, I think it's just mind blowing. It was for me when I read it, and this is what he said: "We're all born unique, but sadly, many of us die a photocopy of somebody else." So the one message I want to share with people is be who you are meant to be, who you were created to be. Don't try to be somebody else. And then the second thing is it's real simple. This is if you live with this simple rule in mind, your work life, your family life, just your life in general is going to be much better. And that is to always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. And if you do that, life is going to be uh, more joy filled than it's going to be filled with trauma and struggles and challenges.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Pat. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Johnny?
Uh, Boy, I'll tell you, I have five that have really influenced. But if I had to pick one, and it's an old one, but it's a classic and is one of the best books to impact me professionally and personally, and that's Dale Carnegie's book on how to win friends and influence people. Uh, it's uh, it's it's like it should be like the foundation of all academics when it comes to leadership and being working in environments that are challenging.
After the career of service, Mr. Pat, how do you define success for an office? Is it interest mode, life save, or community trust earned, or simply retiring with your humanity intact?
Oh, I would define my post law enforcement success is that I have uh, grasped and understood and tried to live um, a life that I call it a life sentence, and it's in the book. Uh, we all have a life sentence that at your funeral, people are going to say in one sentence what your life meant to them. And so that's how I try to live my life. And my life sentence is this: I want people at my funeral to say, Pat really positively influenced and impacted me to be a better person. And so I guess I won't know what people say because I'm not going to, I'm not going to be there. But I would say that would be my ultimate proof of success, or whatever you want to call it, is that I've impacted people's lives in a very positive way.
In a positive way. So, what has this work ultimately taught you about the nature of good and evil and the capacity for both within every person?
Yeah, boy, I've seen a lot of evil. There's no doubt about that,
Hmm.
and it does challenge your idea. A lot of people will say, why did God let this happen, or why did God do this? And I've learned through my journey is there definitely is a spiritual battle between good and evil, and it is the battle is done through us, in the physical world. And so that we have to have, it's in the book of Job. We have to have this mindset: is God is God and I am not. And I am not here to judge and figure out why evil things happen to good people. I'm here to be the best person I can, and to have the compassion and the empathy to help people go through those tragic times and challenges. And that I have people in my life that help me go through those challenges as well.
Yes. And Mr. Pat, the term warrior can be controversial. How do you define it in a way that emphasizes protection and discipline rather than aggression?
Because another great question, because and we do. A lot of people go, "Oh, you should use the word guardian, or you should use something else other than a warrior." And I ask people when that comes up, I go, take take the law enforcer out of it, and will you stand up, show up, and defend your kids if they're getting bullied at school? And the answer is always going to be yes. Are you going to stand up, show up, and defend your faith, whatever that is? And the answer is going to be yes. And I go, that makes you a warrior. It's not about being having authority to punish people or to arrest people or any of that stuff. It's about standing up, showing up, and defending what you believe. And if you have this attitude of, uh, my wife hates this saying, "It is what it is," or
Hmm.
"That's none of my business," then I can tell you, you do not have a warrior mindset, and you're on the lazy river ride. You're just going with the flow, and that's not what a warrior does. In your personal life and in your professional life, like, you work in a office and you have a toxic boss, or you are the boss and you have a just a miserable employee that's always complaining and criticizing. What are you going to do about it? And if you go, well, there's nothing I can do, then I will tell you, you do not have a warrior mindset, because you're not standing up and defending what you believe, including your other people. So it goes way beyond the military. It goes way beyond law enforcement. The term warrior, um, at least for me.
A true warrior indeed. That's a Mr. Pal. How does a true leader in a police department create culture where officers feel safe to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, and ask for help?
You have to set those expectations, because that's what culture is. that how people you get to culture, what's expected and accepted way of thinking, talking, and acting in a group. That's the definition of culture. What is expected and what is accepted. So as a leader in an organization, in your family, in your faith community, in your neighborhood, what do you expect and what will you accept in the way of thinking, talking, and acting in that environment? And if you have the positional leadership, you're the boss, you're the chief, you're the sergeant, whatever. You have to share those expectations, and you have to live them yourself. And so that's how you create an environment so that an officer can come to you and go, "Hey, boss, I'm really struggling at home. My wife and I were arguing. I'm on midnights. I'm not getting any sleep during the daytime. I'm just worn out, and it's really starting to cause problems at home." I want that officer to come and share that with me so that we can look at and go, how can we resolve that in a good way, in a positive way, because it's going to affect you at work. And your work life is affecting you at you can't separate the two of them. And but the only way you can have that kind of culture, that kind of environment, is if you create it, and you do that not through rules and regulations, but you do that through connecting and building relationships with people, not just being their boss.
Mr. Pat, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I invite you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101. Love Letters, Music 101, and Movie 101 Review in fourth season, and Science 101, Sex 101 second season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Pat, finally, if your book could be passed to every police officer in America, what is the one message you are certain would make them better at their job and better as a human beings?
Uh, Repeat rule number two, and that is always, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons.
Yes, people, that would be awesome, Mr. Pat. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now, or your books, because you have like lots of books.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the books, Warrior Servant Leader, Life Behind the Badge, and then Warrior Servant Leader, Life Behind the Cross, which is kind of covers my faith journey, are both available on Amazon. And I would encourage people to join our community of Warrior Servant Leaders, which is 850 strong on our newsletter, and over 3,100 downloads on our podcast. So join us, Warrior Servant Leader Podcast.com. And Daniel, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show. I really appreciate you.
Likewise, Mr. Path. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Path Welsh, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Pat, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.